If you've ever run an ultramarathon, you know that you're gonna eventually need to accept your own mortality and start walking. But when should you start walking? For how long should you walk, and when should you start running again? Well, there is no right answer to these questions, but I can tell you what has worked for me, and what I ask of you is to go out there, to experiment, and to find what works for you. Getting right into it, my favorite interval for endurance races is the 4-minute run, 1-minute walk. More specifically, I have a 1-minute rule, which encourages me not to stop, not to rest, not to walk for over 1 minute. If you're interested in this rule, please see the video I have linked down in the video description, but for today, I want to talk about one topic that I kind of touched on in that video, which is of course interval timing. Now, rules are meant to be broken, and so while I try to aim for a 4-minute run, 1-minute walk, this will drop down to a 3-1, a 2-1, or a 1-1 as the race goes on. Also, there are inevitably times in the middle of a race where you're gonna need to stop and walk or rest or eat for longer than 1 minute. So while rules, they're great to follow, they're great to have rules and goals, you're going to eventually break these rules, and it's okay to give yourself a rest or a break, even though you have set rules and goals that you're trying to follow. The main point is we try not to rest and we try not to walk for over 1 minute, and in this video, I'm gonna argue some points about why this works, particularly for me. My main reason is battling fatigue. I've tried all sorts of intervals ranging from distance-based to longer time-based, and I found that with each of these intervals, it was so much harder to start running again. My legs were locking up, and it just required more physical effort to just start moving. I would then spend a good portion of the running interval trying to warm up and get back into the groove, just for me to get tired and need to stop again by the time that I kind of got more loosened up. This resulted in longer and longer walking intervals till I got to the point where my runs and my walks were swapped, and I was walking these long distances and running a quarter mile or 1 or 2 minutes at a time. The next reason is just as important to me, and that's that I find these short intervals more mentally engaging. I absolutely thrive during a race when I have a job to do, whether that be navigating a tough course or making sure that my hydration and nutrition are on point, or even getting to an aid station and swapping out gear and making sure that I have the right supplies that I need for the rest of the race. But there's a lot of time in between these major events, and damn do I get bored. Focusing on shorter intervals keeps my mind occupied and gives me a time-based trigger to focus on, as opposed to an internal trigger like, ouch, my legs hurt, I need to stop running. The next reason is these short intervals, they slow me down and they give me a chance to do a full body scan and make sure that I'm not missing any red flags. I may realize that, ooh, wow, that blister on my big toe, it's getting kind of big, or my knee's kind of aching more than I thought, maybe I should stop and give that a little bit of attention. When we're forced to slow down, we're forced to be more mentally present and more mindful of the situation that we're in, which is especially important at the beginning of an endurance race, where that feeling of invincibility can make you do some pretty dumb shit that you wouldn't normally do if you were more mindful of the situation. Finally, I want to talk about when you should start performing these run-walk intervals. For most flat 100 milers, or even some of the longer mountain ones, I stop after I feel any sense of fatigue. This is usually about 15 to 20 miles into a race, but it may be 10 or maybe less. Sometimes I'll do a run-walk interval, feel good, swap back into a full-time run, then go right back into the intervals, or other times I'll start my run walks, and do that till the end of the race. The biggest benefit of doing these run walks earlier is, as I mentioned, it takes your ego out of the race. Countless times I've started a race, run till I was tired, stopped, walked, ran again, run, walk, and man, next thing you know, I'm at mile 40 with a killer time and some aching legs. I could tough it out for another 10 miles, get a nice 50-mile time, but oh yeah, this is a 100-mile race and I still got 50 miles to go. Using a run-walk interval so early in a race, it really slows me down for that middle portion, but I always end up finishing it strong and feeling good and mentally just positive. For races under 100 miles or under 100K, I'll run for a longer period of time before feeling this fatigue. As mentioned, I can tough out those final few miles, so making a few mistakes early on isn't quite as impactful to a 50 miler as it is to a 100 miler. However, this comes down to personal preference. This is my strategy. Your strategy may be very different, and that's why I said at the beginning, I want to encourage you to go out, to experiment, to find your own rules, set your own goals, and see what works for you. Endurance races, half marathons, marathons, triathlons, ultramarathons, they are figuratively and literally a long game, and so you're not going to have it all figured out right away. You're going to need to enter some races, get your ass kicked, and find out what works for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. I plan on making more short videos like this with quick tips, so if you like this content, please consider giving this video a like, maybe subscribing, but if not, I'm just happy you stuck with me for this long. As always, let's get out there and do something amazing.